Hey, what's going on, everyone? Hope you're all doing good today. So, EA Sports FC 26 just got its brand new update, version 1.0.4, and honestly, this one's got a bunch of interesting gameplay tweaks that could completely change how your matches feel on the pitch. I've been testing, reading, watching community reactions, and going through the early patch notes, and it's clear that this update isn't just a little bug fix. It's more like EA trying to smooth out all the rough edges from the launch weeks and fix the things players have been frustrated about, especially around tackling, finesse shots, and goalkeepers. So let's talk about what's actually going on, what's fixed, what's changed, and how it's going to affect the way you play from this point forward. All right, first things first. This update was actually kind of a weird one. Some of the patch notes got leaked early. Players on Reddit and FUTWiz spotted them before EA even confirmed anything. EA later admitted those were real, but still a work in progress version of the notes. So, yeah, a bit of a messy rollout, but the good thing is the community now knows what's being worked on. And judging by the reactions, this might be one of the more meaningful gameplay updates we've had since launch. Now, let's start with the most talked about part of this update, the tackling system. If you've played FC26 for a while, you probably noticed how inconsistent tackling has been, especially when using physical defenders or players with a bruiser playstyle. Sometimes you'd go in for what looked like a clean, powerful tackle, and your player would just bounce off. No ball contact, no animation follow through, and your opponent just walks past like nothing happened. It was frustrating. That's been one of the biggest complaints since launch, and apparently, EA finally took that feedback seriously in this update. The tackling mechanics have been tuned so physical tackles register properly, and players using playstyles that emphasize strength, like bruiser or even quick step defenders, should now behave more like their stats suggest. You'll still need good timing, but at least when you go for that perfectly lined up challenge, the game will actually reward you for it. The tackling change might not sound flashy, but it has a huge ripple effect on gameplay. Manual defending becomes more reliable now, and that means players who actually control their defenders and time their tackles can stop relying on AI assistance so much. It's a subtle but important shift back to rewarding skill-based defense. You'll probably notice that players like Van Dijk, Diaz, and even some midfield enforcers like Rodri feel much more responsive when trying to win the ball. It's going to make one-on-one defending smoother and less random. That also means attackers can't just spam skill moves and expect to slip through as easily anymore. The timing window matters again, and that's good news for anyone who hated those awkward animation stutters where your defender would just fail to engage. Now, let's move to another big fix that everyone's been talking about, the finesse and trivela shots. These were kind of broken in some cases. Finesse shots sometimes curved in the wrong direction, and trivelas were activating unintentionally, which was just weird to see. You'd line up a finesse shot, time it right, and then your player decides to do some awkward outside foot flick that completely ruins your shot. It's not only annoying, but it throws off your rhythm completely in tight matches. With this patch, EA's correcting that behavior. Finesse shots should now curve properly, and trivelas won't trigger unless you actually intend them to. It's one of those behind-the-scenes tweaks that might not sound major, but anyone who relies on placement shooting, especially near the box, will feel the difference immediately. Expect your favorite finesse specialists like Messi, Foden, or Odegaard to start feeling more like their real selves again, bending those shots exactly how you expect. What's cool about this change is how it rebalances shot selection. For a while, everyone was just going for power or green time strikes because finesse shots felt unreliable. But now, with the mechanics fixed, those finesse curvers might sneak back into the meta. You might even start experimenting again with your angles and shooting choices instead of just blasting everything straight. It gives you that extra bit of creativity when attacking, especially around the edge of the penalty area. So, yeah, this one's going to be noticeable. Then we have the goalkeeper improvements, and this one's been long overdue. If you've played even a handful of matches, you've definitely seen goalkeepers doing some bizarre things, completely missing easy saves, reacting late, or sometimes even jumping the wrong direction. EA mentioned that this update includes adjustments to make keepers more responsive and consistent in animation transitions. That means they should react faster to close-range shots and have fewer awkward delays between animations. Now, this isn't a full goalkeeper overhaul or anything, but it should make one-on-ones feel less random and stop some of those "how did he not save that" moments. You'll probably notice keepers coming off their line a bit more confidently and recovering better when the ball deflects or rebounds. It's a small tweak, but it adds up during tight games. But here's the thing. When EA changes how goalkeepers behave, it can unintentionally affect the balance of finishing too. So, it's possible that players who relied heavily on low-driven or near-post finishes might need to adjust slightly because the keeper positioning and reaction speed are different now. Keepers might cover near post better, but leave more gaps for finesse shots, especially from medium range. So it's worth testing out a few shot types in training mode or friendlies to get a feel for the new responses. Another point that's been stirring conversation is the kickoff positioning tweak. This one's a little confusing at first glance, but here's what's actually going on. A few updates ago, EA changed how defenders position themselves right after kickoff to make it a bit tighter and reduce kickoff goals. Now they've decided to revert that, but only in authentic gameplay mode. If you play online, especially in Ultimate Team or competitive mode, you won't see this change. It's only for offline or authentic matches, basically meaning exhibition games, career mode, and similar setups. The competitive mode still has the same positioning system from before. EA probably did this because some offline modes were feeling too compact and defensive right after kickoffs, which made the start of every match feel robotic. Reverting it brings back a more natural flow in those game types. But yeah, if you switch between offline and online, you might feel a difference in how open the field looks during those first few seconds after kickoff. Now, because this update tweaks tackling, shooting, and goalkeeping all at once, you're going to notice a slightly different rhythm in your matches. Tackles land cleaner, keepers respond quicker, finesse shots behave correctly. It all sounds good, but it means your muscle memory might feel a bit off for the first few games. The way you've been timing challenges or selecting your shot types might need a bit of fine-tuning. That's why I'd really recommend spending a few matches in kickoff or skill games, just getting the feel again. It's not about relearning the game completely, but small timing differences can make a big impact when you're competing online. Once you've adjusted, you'll start seeing how much smoother everything feels overall. Community reactions so far have been mostly positive, with a few people pointing out that some gameplay areas still need attention, especially player switching and collision detection. But this patch definitely addresses some of the biggest annoyances people had since launch. It's also a good sign that EA is listening to feedback more actively now. The early leak of the notes kind of forced them to confirm things sooner, but it also helped players understand what's being worked on before the patch even landed. It's a bit of transparency that's refreshing to see, even if it wasn't planned. Now let's talk about the practical side. How this update affects your actual playstyle. If you're more of a defensive player, this is your time to shine. The new tackling mechanics give you a bigger window for success when you read the play correctly. So if you've got good anticipation and positioning, you're going to love this. On the flip side, if you rely heavily on dribbling and skill moves to break through, you might find it a bit tougher now because defenders aren't whiffing tackles as much. You'll have to be more precise with your feints and changes of direction. The game rewards smarter, not flashier attacking play right now. For attackers, finesse shots being fixed changes the shot hierarchy again. Instead of everything being about power, green timing, or near-post smashes, those classic finesse curlers from just outside the box are back in business. It also means players with high curve and finesse traits become more valuable again. In Ultimate Team, you might see the market react slightly, with players who have strong finesse attributes becoming a bit more sought after. Think of players like Son, Di Maria, or even someone like Bernardo Silva. They're going to feel way better in this patch than they did before. For goalkeepers, there's not much you can do strategy-wise other than observe. But if you like manually bringing your keeper off the line, this is a good time to experiment a bit. Since animations are smoother now, manual keeper movements feel slightly more responsive. Just be careful not to overcommit because the balance between reaction and recovery is still delicate. All in all, this update feels like a quality of life refresh more than a meta-breaking overhaul. It doesn't change how the entire game works, but it smooths out enough of the core mechanics to make matches feel fairer and less random. You'll still get your occasional odd animation, of course, it's EA, but overall, it's a step forward in consistency. If you play in career mode or authentic modes, you'll probably notice that the overall flow feels more organic now, especially with the kickoff change and how tackles and AI defenders behave. It gives matches a more realistic tempo. And for online players, especially in Ultimate Team, the tackling and finesse changes are going to influence how people build their squads and defend going forward.